So today, basically, we are going to discuss about collections. Uh, so there are, what is collections? It's like another package uh, where, we call it as like very importantly, collections is a group of classes together and used to hold multiple objects, used to hold multiple elements in a single unit. Collections are nothing but uh, holding multiple elements in a single unit. Like, if you want to hold multiple students in a single object, then you can use collections. So we have something in the same lines earlier we discussed is nothing but arrays. So how it is different from arrays? Arrays, what we can do, you can keep as many objects that we want, right? If you remember, we kept movies objects and we created Netflix. We created a Netflix structure where we can keep as many movies as we want, right? But how it is different from uh, give me 1 second. So collections framework is unified architecture for representing and manipulating collections, whatever the collections that we have. So what are the different type of collections that we have, and what are the different classes that has been available in that package? So basically collections are inside java.util.package. Okay. This document, this note I shared with you guys already. So um, so so we have all these interfaces and classes that has been there inside util package. So these are all called as collections. Okay, collections framework. Collection framework is all together all the interfaces that I mentioned over there, all the classes that I mentioned over there. Okay, but there is a specific class called collection as well. Okay, don't get confused. Okay, we have a collection framework as well as collection class, collection interface. Okay, so if you look at the structure, who is the parent and who is the child, who is the subclasses, who is the parent classes, if you look at the structure below, so we have different interfaces called collection, list, set, map, sorted map, iterator, list iterator, enumeration. So these are the important. There are a bunch of them, but these are very important, and you're going to do use them at least most of them in your day-to-day development. And the classes are ArrayList, vector, linked list, hash map, asset, TreeSet, linked asset, hash map, tree map, hash table, linked hash map, and another class is collections, right? So we have almost 9 important interfaces and 11 classes. So this is the piece that you always need to, what do you call it? Improvise or look out for each time when the Java releases new version, because something new comes up here. Okay, so if you look at the structure, collection is the interface which is just super class of all the classes that has been there in the collection framework. So what are the childs for the collection? List and set. Okay, so collection I explained, right? What is collection? A collection is nothing but an object or a class, an interface which can provide you certain functionalities, certain built-in functionalities to hold objects, a list of objects, and play around, and provides the functionality to play around those objects. Okay. And so in that they segregated into two parts, list and set. Okay, what is list, what is set? So the main difference between the list and set is, if you go to list and set, is like basically if you insert certain items, right? If you insert certain items into list, they goes in order collection. Like if you insert first item, then it will sit in the first index 0. If you insert second item, it will go on index 1. So it will go whatever the order you insert, it will be available in that order. But set is something unordered collection. It doesn't guarantee any order. Okay, it doesn't guarantee any order. But list, another difference is list allows duplicates. List allows duplicates. So if you try to put same object twice, then it doesn't care. It doesn't look for. But set doesn't allow duplicates. How it eliminates, we'll see. So third point is derived based on the first point, like order based on index of the element inserted. Whatever the index element number you inserted, you get to know, you can easily ask, like if you ask for the same index, you get the same object. But if you insert in the index of 0 in set case, you may get that item in the index of 4. So it doesn't carry, even if you're inserting the first element, it's going to sit in somewhere else. Okay. It allows as many null values as you want, but set allows only one null value because set doesn't allow duplicates. So null also, if you try to put more than one null, then it considered as it's a duplicate and it tries to remove it. So who and all implementing for list? Popular implementations of the list are ArrayList, vector, linked list. But how about set? Popular implementations for set is HashSet, linked HashSet, TreeSet. Okay, so this part, if you understand, right, whatever I'm just moving the mouse, my cursor around. So this section, whatever this section we are talking about, collections is an interface which has another, which has been implemented by list and set interfaces, which has been extended by list and set interfaces, and there has been different implementations in the list that has been provided, okay, and in set case there are different implementations. So in the list case we have ArrayList, vector, linked list. Set case HashSet, linked HashSet, sorted set. In sorted set we have another implementation called TreeSet. Okay, so let me show it to you quickly how this works. I'll just try to keep the primitives. Another important point you guys need to remember is, let me go back quickly, revise those. Arrays, difference between array and collections framework. Okay, so basically in arrays, what we used to do? Whenever we declare an array, we must define we must declare the size of the array. We must provide the size of the array first thing. Okay, no matter what, when you are declaring an array, if you are declaring an array of int, then you also need to communicate at the declaration level that it is an array of ints of size. You need to provide the size also. So you can't modify the size if size is not modifiable. So if you have more than the items that you thought when you are declaring, then you can't use array. You need to define another array and copy all these objects into another new array and process it. So collections in this collection set, right? Whatever the in this collections framework, they can be resizable. Collections are resizable. Okay, they can dynamically resize irrespective of the size, whether you defined or not. You don't need to define the size. Even you can define, or you don't need to define. Okay. And second thing is arrays doesn't allow generics, collections allow generics. Okay. So this is something I'll explain to you. Okay. And then array will store both primitive and objects. Array will store both primitive. What are the primitives? Int, double, float. These are the primitives and objects. We stored movies objects, right? So into array. But if it comes to collection, it doesn't allow primitive types. If you try to insert primitive data types into collections, they will throw an error. Ideally, okay, it will store only objects. But because of there is a concept called auto boxing. Okay, there is a concept called auto boxing and unboxing. Remember the keywords, okay? Auto boxing and unboxing. So what happens is like whenever you try to insert a primitive data type into arrays, whenever you try to insert primitive data types into array list or any set or any collection, it will automatically converts that into object, corresponding object, okay, corresponding what kind of objects we call them? Give me a second. Wrapper classes, corresponding to wrapper class, and then insert into collection. So when you try to insert a primitive into any collections, first Java it will take care internally. It converts that primitive into wrapper object and then it will insert because collections accepts only objects. Okay, performance wise more or less same. So in arrays, like I mentioned, you need to provide length, but in array list, basically the initial size is 0. Initial size when you declare, right, it's 0. But when you try to insert the first element, the capacity is 10. The capacity is 10. The length is 1, but capacity is 10. When it reaches maximum, so when you insert 10 elements, then it increases the size with whatever the old capacity. Let's say 10 is the old capacity, 10 into 30 divided by 215 plus 1, 16. So it increases to 16. Okay, you got my point. So that is the basic differences between arrays and collections. Okay, when I say collections, all these classes. Okay, so let's go back and do quickly an example. Inside class we can view so as we need to implement, right, array list and collections. So let's try to, so if you guys remember, let me write an array list. Yeah, as part of this itself, I will cover generics as well, okay? Array list L equal to new array list. So you're getting error, right? Because you haven't imported the corresponding package. What is the default package only imported? Java.io.util. Remaining all packages, the built-in packages, you need to import explicitly. Okay. So now I imported. So I got ArrayList. So inside ArrayList, I try to add some integers. Okay. Add. So it doesn't see if you look at. So these are the different methods that has been available in ArrayList. Okay. What is the best way to see all the methods that has been available in the any class? You need to use object reference dot. Then it will provide you all the list of methods that has been available inside that class. So in our ArrayList class, these are all the different objects. So if you want to add something, right? So it's simple. What we need can do, add if a1 dot add. So if you try to keep one, see, like I mentioned, ideally ArrayList should not accept primitive data types, but it is accepting. The reason is it is internally doing auto boxing and unboxing in Java from Java 1.5 onwards. If you have a version of Java 1.5 or above, then Java internally take care. Earlier, before less than Java 1.5, you need to explicitly convert this int data type into integer wrapper class and then insert into collections. Okay, but after 1.5, you don't need to do that. Auto boxing and unboxing will happen automatically. Okay, so let me add another one. Add off to ArrayList. So add off 8 add off. See here, ArrayList is holding 4 objects, okay, of type integer. Okay, but if I try to insert, right, let me try to insert. Okay, add off. See, here important point. Okay, I'm entering into generics as well. Okay, so what's happening here? If you added 4 integers, so all are converted into integer objects, and you added a string as well. String is by default a object class. I mean, string is a class, so you can keep whatever you could keep, that it will become an object, so you don't need to worry about it. But only concern here is, so how can we iterate, right? What is the best way to iterate? When you try to iterate for int I assigned to 0, I is less than or equal to ArrayList dot. I'm checking, is there any function available to check the size? Size is there, but the size is nothing but number of elements inside. So you need to, as the index starts with 0, you need to keep always -1, so that exact size will be identified, exact iterations will be identified. Okay, I plus plus. I'm repeating for loop, and then I'm trying to display. ArrayList elements. L dot get of index, whatever the index, right? I is the index for us, right? See, I'm going to get an error. I'll explain why it is. Okay, let me run this. I don't think so. I'll get an error. Okay, so I didn't get any error. Okay, but let me show it to you. What if somebody int, we assume we kept only integers and we try to get so here I'm going to display. Okay. Now I got an error because let me explain. What is the error we got? Class cast exception. Class cast exception. Why? Because let me go back to see. Like I mentioned, right? You added all the primitive data types. So, and you assume this is an array list, a list which is holding of types integers, which is holding of types integers. But which is holding of integer types and try to get the integer objects and assign it to the a variable and display it. So when it's try to iterate the first element, second element, third element, fourth element, we got undisplayed properly 1280. But when it comes to try to extract the fifth element, it extracted successfully. This part executed, but you are trying to assign a string to integer. You are trying to assign whatever the value that is extracted is junk, right? The junk is you are trying to assign it to an integer. So string, you are assigning a different class to different class. Earlier, when you try to add off one and when you say al dot get off index 1, then you will get the value is 1. And it is a of type integer. So it automatically converts and it handles that integer value. But when you try to extract the fifth element and it is of type string and you are trying to convert string into integer, which is like technically or logically or conceptually wrong. You are trying converting into a, how can you say this is an integer, right? How can you assign it to integer? Integer is what? An integer is of type which can hold only digits, right? If you try to assign the string to an integer, it will say class cast exception. So you are trying to cast wrongly by taking a string object and assigning it to integer object. You are trying to pull a string object and assigning it to integer object, which is a class cast exception. You will get an error. So in order to, so when did you get an error? When you run the program, right? When you run the program, you got this error. So in day-to-day activities, right? So many developers, so many people, like as part of the typos or whatever that is, if these kind of issues happens in production, you need to go back. First, it will happen when running the program. When all the customers are using your app all the customers are accessing your application, then if you get these errors, it is so annoying, right? Instead of that, if you can identify this error at compile time rather than runtime. Instead of identifying this error, instead of identifying this kind of exceptions, instead of at runtime, if you can identify at compile time, that would be much more helpful. So these kind of issues doesn't happen in live, in production, right? So how can Java achieve that with generics? What does it mean? Like whenever you defining an array list, make sure you define the array list type as well. Okay? Whenever you defining an array list, make sure you define the array list of type as well. So here we haven't defined what kind of array list it is. We initially thought it's in, we just assumed it's an array list of type integers, but somehow down the line someone has inserted string into that. So we end up getting runtime exception. Instead of that, if you can define while defining an array list, let's say an integer, an array list of type integer. Okay, now see, you're getting error at compile time itself. The method add integer of type array list integer is not applicable of type argument string. What does it mean? So when you are defining an array list, you conveyed this array list is of type an integer, so it will only accepts integers. If you try to add anything other than integer, then it will give a compile time error. So what is generics? Generics is the way of converting runtime exceptions into compile time exceptions. That is the core reason. There are a bunch of things, but just to go through this scenario, I'm just explaining. How do you define generics? Using diamond brackets. Okay, so when you're writing array list, you need to, next to the array list class, you need to mention what kind of list it is, and you don't need to, while calling constructor, it's a default. You can write integer like this, or else you can leave it with 1.8. It doesn't care at all. You don't need to mention here. Only on the reference object creation side itself, you need to, left hand side itself, you need to mention what kind of list it is. Okay, so now you got a compile time error, so you must correct it before running your program. You got my point? That is nothing but generics. Okay, so for each I haven't mentioned, but for each primitive data type we have corresponding wrapper class. Okay, for each primitive data type we have corresponding wrapper class. So for int, integer is the wrapper class. For double, see if you look at here, right? Let me write. For int, integer is the wrapper class. For double, see capital letters, that's it. Okay. Boolean is the wrapper class. Float is the wrapper class. Byte. This is the wrapper class. Okay. Corresponding wrapper classes will be there. So you got my point. So what is generics? What is auto boxing and boxing, right? So how to add an elements into an array list or any list using add. These are the built-in methods that has been there. ArrayList is built-in class. That's by this time you guys should have understand, right? So if you go to ArrayList, you can see bunch of methods available, right? Size, ArrayList, different collections, different constructors. size method contains index of, okay, last index of. So these are the different kind of these are different kind of functionalities that has been available. So so how do we iterate? There are different ways to iterate it. Okay, this is one way of iterating using for loop. How do we iterate data from the array list? For any list, one way is using simple for loop. Another for loop is there. This is called for each for loop. For each for loop. Okay, this one is a typical for loop. The one that I am writing is for each for loop. Okay, for so I know by this time, right, using generics, I know what kind of data type is there, right? So for each integer, sorry, for each you read it out like this, okay? For each integer object in array list, as simple as that. So what does it mean? Well, how do you read this line? For each integer object inside array list. AL is the array list for each integer object. So this line is as good as this line. So what will happen internally? This loop will be converted. Java will converted, like it will verify as long as the size is less than -1. It will repeat this loop. You don't need to write this explicit condition. Okay. So let me display integer. How do you get the object from? How do you get objects from array list? Al dot get off. You can ask by index. Okay. I. This time you are asking by integer that you have. Okay. This is one way. So let me display this one also so you can see. So you can. I don't know how to display ln. You can call it as regular for loop. So both ways you can do it. Okay. Going to 80, this one for each. We extracted 2 and 8. Why we did it? I'm just checking. Give me a second. Okay. This one keep it aside, like I don't want to waste your time. I'll come back to this. So another way of iterating is there are three ways to iterate. Okay, basically there are three ways to iterate. One is one is through typical for loop. One is typical for loop. Another one is for each loop. I will show it to you quickly. I don't know. Another one is there is a class called iterator. Iterator. Iterator in the collections. Okay. Iterator equal to ArrayList dot iterator. Okay. Now this is another package, right? This is another package you need to import explicitly. There's something wrong with this. Give me 1 second, I'm just checking what could be wrong. Is it because of integer? So it should not. Okay, let's try another example. Okay, I'll keep in mind, but for sure I'll give you an answer. Don't worry. So let's write another example called what you called ArrayList string example. String based will do quickly. I don't know. Double check class. So what I'll do, I'll define an ArrayList again. ArrayList al equal to new ArrayList. We know, as we know, we not using generics, we can avoid compile time. I mean, we can avoid runtime exceptions, and we move them to compile time. So I'm saying I'm defining an ArrayList of type string. Okay. So in this, I'm just trying to add al dot add off. So colors. Let me add some colors. Okay. So, al dot add off. Al dot add off. Okay. So in this al dot, like we added. Let me add one more. Okay, al dot add off. Okay, we have at least some elements to play around. Okay, so we have now added 4 different string objects into ArrayList. Okay, so now we want to play around with this ArrayList. Okay, how can we play around? There are three. How can we iterate? There are two ways to iterate, 3 ways to iterate. Right? One is for int I assigned to 0, I is less than or equal to. Sorry, I is less than or equal to al minus al dot size of size minus 1 and I plus plus. So this will repeat the loop and then you display whatever you want, right? And just keep writing next to each other, okay? So al dot get off, right? Actually, we got it. I got it. For each integer, I'm just going back to the program just because while writing that program I got an idea what is the problem. I'm trying the wrong way. Yeah. Integer sum I let me comment this guy. So now you can see the result. Right. So what I'm trying to print is I plus space. through, I'll explain, through for each loop. Traditional for loop. Okay. So let me run this program. Okay, see if you look at right now, now we got the results. We didn't get an error. Basically, what's the problem is the way I extracting the way I try to extract is wrong. So traditional for loop, what we did in traditional for loop, you just go and check each and every element inside the array list. Okay, inside the array list, and you give the index and get off I instance, get off 0, get off 1. This one is like, each time the loop triggers, right? Get off 0, get off 1, get off 2, get off 3. And if the size is reaches, then it comes out of the loop. But this for each loop, right? This is for each loop. How do you write? For each integer for each integer inside array list. Because we know we kept in AL only integers, right? If you try to, like for each string, you'll get an error. It will say, no, AL is of type integer type. So type mismatch cannot convert element from integer to string. So compile time error there and then itself you will get because of generics. So for each integer inside array list, you directly asking an element. You don't need to pass an index. You don't need to pass an index and access an element in for each loop. Okay, you directly get with this line. It is as good as this line and then this line. So it's a combination. It does everything. It reduces your coding efforts. Like it need not to explicitly write. I will understand. Even if you're writing simply like this, I understand you are trying to extract each and every element from the array list of type integers. So I can provide you directly that integer. You don't need to worry about the index. You don't need to worry about the string. I mean size of the array list, all the stuff. That's the advantage of the for each loop. For each loop, you got my point. So a lot of times you will see for each loops you are writing. So try to understand. What I'm trying to say is here you're trying to get the index and you're trying to know the size and then trying to ask, give me index of 0 element, give me index of 1 element, give me index of 2 element. Okay, in traditional for loop. But in for each for loop, what are you trying to do? You just know there are integers of type. This is AL is an array list of type integers. So I just need to extract it. Right? So what it says, AL dot, this what it will do, it will directly extract each time it loops, it extracts one element, first element, second element, third element, and will give that element directly to you. You don't need to ask through index again. Last time what I did is I tried to access the index through index. That's a blunder. So you got my point. Okay, so this is for each loop and this is typical traditional for loop. Okay, so let me go back to the program that we are writing. So this is string based. One way we got to know. Another way is for int. Again. This time what we need to do for each kind, for each for loop, if you want to write for this, these are a list of type strings. For each string inside, L. And then just display. ln is to new line, so I'm just printing so that it will print next to each other. str, some space. So each time some space will be created. So this is for I'm just showing you different ways of extracting elements. Okay, we'll go deeper slowly. That way. If I'm going slow, just let me know. Don't hesitate. Okay, if you guys catch it up, because sometimes I thought like Sometimes certain items are so important, so I'll stretch. Another way of doing it is iterator. This one, what we can do, iterator itr equal to l dot. There is a method called iterator inside ArrayList. These are the different methods. You need to go back and look what are all different methods. Okay, let me quickly recap for your guys, important ones, right? Add. So you can add strings. Simply adding purpose, you can use the highlighted method. So if you want to add index based and a particular index, you want to add a particular element. Like if for index 1, you want to add purple, and for index 4, you want to add red. For index 3, you want to add green. Like explicitly that particular index and particular element you want to insert, you can use this method. Add all is, I'll show it to you. This is clear. When you add the AL dot clear, it will clean out. It will wipe out all the elements in the array list, and it will reset it. It's empty. Okay. Clone is something we can discuss. Clone is like as good as copy, but I'll explain deeper later. Contains. What does it mean? Like if I say AL dot contains of red. So what I'm trying to say is like is this array list of string contains yellow color inside, in yellow object inside, so it will return boolean. So this is the return type. These are the return types. Okay, so in this for this method, boolean is the return type. So it will return whether if you ask for yellow for this array list, it will say true. If you ask for white, as we don't have an object inside AL, so it will return false. Okay. Then ensure capacity. So equals method, we'll do equals as well for each. Get of index is index based getting. So remaining are like object based, and is empty is checking like is this array list is empty, or is this array list is something. Iterator we're just going to try. And what is the last index of. So different methods. Okay, just go back and look at it. Okay. So AL dot we are trying to add iterator. So what iterator is giving iterator, but it is saying you need to what type you need to mention type. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do iterator of type string. Okay, so now I got an iterator. So this is another way of iterating. While itr dot has next, while loop I'm using. Okay, there is a different iterator is having some other functionalities. Has element as next. So as next. So which means, is there any element inside? Is there any element? If it is an element available, if there is any object available, then itr dot next. When you ask for itr dot next, it will return whatever the element inside. So here for each string in array list, so for each time it looks, this string is the element that is there. So here for each iterator dot next, there is whatever the element is there, it will display. So if we go back here, there are different ways of accessing. Okay, this is the array list we have. We have 4 elements, right? We'll just use same name. Purple, red, green, yellow. These are the purple, red, green, yellow available. 0, 1, 2, 3 index. So typical for loop, what will happen? Typical for loop is like for each index of I 0, and AL dot size is you will get as 4, and you need to look for what? Up to 3 only, right? You need to look for up to 3 index. So you keep it -1 and loop it. So what happens? AL dot get off, first time get off 0. So get off 0, get off 0. What you will get? Purple you will get. Okay. So that's what you will display here. And if you get off 1, you will get red. That's how typical for loop runs. But for each loop, what will happen? Same thing will happen, but it directly access, like, it will, for each for each element of type string, inside this AL list, give me that element directly. You don't need to use index. Index internally taken care by JVM. So that is another way. Another way is iterator. You are creating an iterator class from ArrayList. AL dot iterator. When you say AL dot iterator, you will get a pointer kind of thing, separator pointer kind of thing, ITR, and then it will iterate. Has next, it will check ITR dot has next. Is first it starts from here, this edge, so it will check. Is there has next any element here? If it is there, then ITR dot next. So when you ask ITR dot next, it will give this element and it will move this cursor to here. And again, ITR has element. Then it will say yes, true. Then you can ask has next. This element you will get. Then iterator dot next. So it will go here. Last time what will happen? ITR dot has next. Nope, no element is there. This is the maximum. So it comes out. That is what is happening in a while loop. So there are different ways to iterate. Okay. Let me see the results. What will happen, right? So you need to see 3 different loops, 3 different same results from 3 different ways of iteration. So we have it run this again. See, traditional per loop. I'm just getting a new line. See, traditional for loop, you extracted all the values. For each loop, you extracted all the values. And then so for traditional loop, you extracted all the values. For each loop, extracted the values. For iterator also, you can use. So these are the 3 different ways. 3 different ways to extract all the elements one at a time. Okay. These are the different ways. Okay. There is another way you can extract is, but you need to make sure all the time the size. Okay. If you know very well the size, you can ask something like this. Okay. So SOUT AL dot get off. If you try 9, it will give an error, index out of bound exception, because the size is only 3. So you can ask max 3. So if you ask 3, you can get the value. So I'm just showing another function, that's it. Nothing fancy there. So yellow you got. If you ask 1, you will get red. Sorry. You get red. So that is another way. Another way is, see, another is the element, particular element is available or not. AL dot contains, right? Contains of, let me try to ask white. You got it as false. because white is not there. This contains method returns what? True or false, whether the particular element is there or not, you are asking, right? So if I ask for red, it will say true. You see? And SYSYOT A dot size. And let me see another one is A dot. Yeah, let me display the size. What is the size? 10. But the capacity is default with start with 10. But size is, as we kept only 4 elements, size is 4. Capacity and size are different. Okay. So when you define an array list, as you are not defining this, what you called, as you are not providing any size of the array list, by default it will go with 10 capacity. But based on number of elements you insert, that is the size. So interview questions they will ask, what is the difference between size and capacity? So what is the initial capacity of an array list with the empty list? You just declared, and what is the size? Is it 10 or is it 0? So if it is 10, what is the size of this? What is the size after inserting 4 elements? What does capacity changes? These kind of tricky questions they keep asking you. Okay, so prepare for those. Next one is, so these are the different ways to extract. So how do you check, like, equals method also there. Equals method will go back later. So if you observe another important point, array list will go in a sequence order. Whatever the way you insert, same way you can get. So all I can do is here, if I change it to this array list into what are the different lists, right? Vector. Vector is another list, right? Another vector is another implementation for list. See, array list is one type of implementation for list. Vector is another implementation for list. Linked list is another implementation for list. You getting my point? So everything works as is. Everything works as is. So everything is working as is, right? So what is the difference then? If it is working as is, why do they implemented two? Why do they provided two different implementations? Is basically vector is synchronized by default, which means in multi-threading environment, vector helps you. If you want to keep a list of elements, basically if you want to keep a list of elements in multi-threaded environment, you can go for vector. But in non-multi-threaded environment, if you want to keep a list of elements, then you go for ArrayList. So what are the differences? If there is more insertions and less reads, then go for particular list. There are differences between this. There are different kind of performance issues kind of thing. Which one is better? Those kind of comparisons we will verify. So the behavior of list is, we can read it out again. Okay. List is an ordered collection. So whatever the order you insert, same order, the data will be there. User of this interface has precise control over the where the element is inserted. Allows duplicates. Order based on index of the element inserted. It allows as many null values as you want. So quickly I will show two more points. So if I insert, I already inserted green, right? Let me insert green again. Okay, and see what will happen. If I insert null and let me insert another null. So I kept two green duplicates and two nulls. Okay, whether it allowed or not, we'll see. See, two greens are allowed. It doesn't eliminated the duplicate. It doesn't eliminated the duplicate. You getting my point? All whatever the value inserted, it's just showed up returned back same way. You getting my point? So list array list doesn't eliminate duplicates. It doesn't. It allows as many null values as you want, just in case. So these are all the criteria when you are choosing, right? Oh, whether do I need to go for set? Do I need to go for list? So then you can your requirement you can look for it, and then based on that you can decide which one to go. So we just kept strings right now. Let's keep let's try to keep what we call an objects. We kept a string object. Let's try to keep our own objects and see what will happen. That is another way. Class ArrayList. ArrayList based on okay. So what I'm going to do here, for the convenience, I'm just creating class here itself. I'm going to take a class called class website. Okay, class website. So here I'm going to write. I'm going to follow the encapsulation definition. Okay, what is that? Private methods, public setters and getters. String name, private string private double value of the site website, private string purpose. And then what we need to do, we need to generate setters and getters, public setters and getters methods. So go to source, simple way, generate getters and setters. Select all. So all the setters, getters selected, generated. Get name. When it asks for get name, this name is provided. When you try to set some value, this method is triggered and this value will be assigned. This value will get refreshed. Okay? Getting my point? So setters and getters. Okay, nice. So this is a simple website, and I'm going to add values like, let me show it to you like can we take it from the inputs, user inputs? Okay, let's do that quickly. Okay, so what we'll do is scan equal to new scanner. I'm not going to repeat why we are using it. Basically, to read the inputs from the console. So we created the scanner object, and we're going to hold this website into our array list. So array list of type what? Website. Earlier we kept string and integer, right? So array list of website. So web list, I call it as. The naming should be more resemble what you're going to keep, right? Array list. Really don't need. Okay. So web list you got. Now what you need to do? You need to repeat, right? Let's ask the user, right? SYSOUT provide the number of sites. Okay, so what you need to do? You need to take the size of the array list. So what you can do is scan dot next int. You need to take into size. Int size. So that is the size of the array list. Your size of the array list is also going to be, right? And then, so for int I assigned to 0, I is less than or equal to I think it's better to keep this line here because you got the size, so you can provide the size also. So you can loop that many times. Make sense? Initialize the size as well, right? So now web list dot size -1. See, this is the method inside ArrayList. Okay, this is the input that provided by user. Don't get confused. Plus plus. Now I need to take the values, each different values that user provides and keep it into website, right? Website. I think you should remember the movies section. The same way we did, right? Website equal to. Each time I need to create a new object and keep it in ArrayList of type website. Website. So I created an object SYSOUT. Now I'll ask name of the site. Okay. Then user enters the name of the site. What we need to do is here you need to take this name of the site is string, right? Name equal to scan dot next. So it will give you scan dot next line. Try next line. It will give you complete string. Okay. Then what we need to ask, what is the definition of your website? Your definition of website is name, value, and purpose. So you need to take all those inputs, right? Purpose. Then user enters and you need to capture purpose. Purpose is what? A string again. US purpose. But one thing we are missing, I'll show you. Don't worry. Scan dot next line. So you took the purpose also. Now again, what else you need to ask the customer, user? What is the site value? Value. It's a double, right? String. So you need to take the input again. double. Value provided. So sorry, you need to take into double. What do you do? Next double, right? Scan dot next double. So you got the double. So take it into double d equal to or price, right? Or price or value. So now we take the values, but we haven't kept it into site. So you need to start adding it to the site, right? So here user enters. So immediately when user enters, you need to take that site. You need to keep it into site. Site dot set name. That is the setter way. That is the way you can't simply access site dot name, right? So you need to use the private method, public methods to access the private variables. So user provided name we are adding here. Site dot set purpose user provided. Now your site dot set value user provided value we entered. So this value we are entering here. For this purpose we are entering, we are setting the value. So an object is getting prepared with the values. Then once the object has been prepared, what we need to do? We need to take that object and keep it inside our web list, right? So our web list dot add of site. And how many times it should be? It should loop whatever the site entered by the user, whatever the site and size of the entered by the user. Okay, now you took all the inputs from the user. So now you want to display like something just want to display. All I want to show is like how to keep an object, how to extract an object. And earlier I showed you how to keep a built-in strings or built-in integers. Now I am trying to show you how to store our own objects into different kind of lists. Okay. Yes, this is the first list. I am just going through each and everything. Going forward, just need to pick it up. Assume same thing for the set. Assume same thing for the array list, linked list, vector, all the same thing. Okay. I'm not going to do for each and everything. I'm just doing for array list and try it out for different things. And I'll explain the differences. What is the difference? Okay. All we need to do is repeat it for each website object inside web list. So for each website object that we keep inside web list. Okay. Then what we need to do? We just need to display site name and so how do we get name? wb dot get of name and then purpose let's put generically, right? Used for so wb dot get of purpose and then plus and its value the market. You can say whatever the way you want. Its value in the market is wb dot get of value. What we're trying to do is we are trying to prove same thing in the single program. In day-to-day activities is, you write, user provides real time, right? User, some the customer provides and you take that values, you process that values, you keep it in the database and extract it later and process it. You do a lot of things, but I'm just, as we are at the beginning and we are just understanding all the core Java functionalities. Imagine like, somebody is providing the inputs, somewhere you are processing and somewhere you are storing kind of thing. Displaying nothing but storing kind of imagination you should have, okay? So let's run this program. So provide the number of sites. I'll say 3. Okay. This program start. Next int is there, right? Let me display the size. Here I'll try to display the size of the list as well. Just checking what is the wrong, right? It's not continuing, right? So I'm just trying to see this size. It's kind of different. Web list size is 0. Let me see randomly entering some value, right? Yeah. So what did initial capacity, right? That's what we're doing here. Journalist website, right? Right. So basically my intention is to show you guys how to keep the values inside how to keep objects inside a list, our own objects that we create day to day. So but it's not taking inputs from the user because the size has been getting it as always going it as a 0 and the loop is not repeating. Just trying to see what could be the problem. Hang on a second. I can comment on the chat as well if you see some if I can't see and if you can see possible reason. Web list dot size. Okay, for time being, I'm just putting this one as okay. Provide the site. This is ignore it. I, is it because of scan? So name of the site, let me say Facebook. And purpose is social social networking. And value is like 2, 3, 4, 5 something. And it asks again, excuse me. The name of the site is again Google. Value is and name of the site and purpose is first time it asks social networking and purpose is searching. Let's see what it value is like 1, 2, 3, 4. Name of the site is some Kaiser. Value is 10. So if you look at here, size name, Facebook use it for social networking, it is the maximum value. Use it for Google and it's maximum value. Use it for searching, it's maximum value. So if you observe, what we're trying to do is just a naming printouts and systouts should be properly keep in the right places. But basically what we're trying to do is here trying to take the values from the user and keeping into our initializing or preparing our website object. And then once you prepare the website object, you try to keep it into web list. So that way you're holding your own objects in a bunch of your own objects as a list into your web list of type website. Web list array of type website. So then now you can play around like, okay, so so there will be requirement, okay, display if there is a display if the site value is more than 1000. So you kept like 100 sites. There may be 10 sites which is costing more than 1,000 and remaining are less than 1,000. Then if somebody asks display all the sites which cost more than 1,000, then you need to loop this for loop using you need to loop this array list, web list array list, and verify each time when you extract an object, website object, you need to verify what is the size, what is the value of that website. If the value is greater than 1,000, display it. If it is less than 1,000, ignore it. Those kind of conditions you need to improvise around it. We will do one couple of programs tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll again continue doing this ArrayList, couple more demos, and then we'll discuss about set, and we'll do another same programs with the sets and see the difference, and then we move on to comparisons across all the, because there are a lot of questions they will ask on day-to-day purpose interviews. So then we'll go to map, how we can do, and we'll do 2 to 3 programs, 2 programs on map, key value based. Why do we need that? When we have a list, why do we need a map? When we have a set, why do we need a map? And if you have a map, what kind of maps we have? And if in set, how do you sort it? And if you want to compare, how do you compare between 2 objects? How do you make both objects are same or not? So these kind of programs we'll do. So I believe 2 more days and 2 hours of 1.5 hour or 2 hours of sessions required to finish collections. So yep, let's continue tomorrow. Thank you.